Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss The Sandlot 2, starring James Earl Jones, Cole Evan Weiss, Brett Kelly, James Wilson, Max Lloyd Jones, Samantha Burton, Neelan Benvignu, forgive me if I said that wrong, Sean Birdie, Griffin Riley Evans, Mackenzie Fremantle, Jessica King, Tara Rothery, and Reese Thompson, directed by David Mickey Evans. Now, I heard this movie has this reputation of being the worst of the series. I will see if that's the case next time, but for now, I have not seen this movie before, and let's just get straight into it. We open with flashback of back of 1962 when the first Sandlot movie happened, with the narration by whom I'm guessing is an older Johnny Smalls, and we move on to summer of 1972, which is 10 years after the first Sandlot movie happened, as we get Johnny as a kid firing a rocket at the Sandlot while David Durango bumps into Haley Goodfarer, and they pick up each other's papers as Haley walks away and makes fun of him with her friends, Penny and Jenny, as David's friends Max, Saul, Tarkel, Sammy, and Fingers come by, and the reason he's called Fingers is because he's deaf, come by and ride their bicycles at the Sandlot, and when they arrive, Johnny accidentally blows up the Sandlot, and they go after him until Haley protects Johnny from the boys, and she picks on David, and the boys, as she asks Johnny to do whatever she wants, as the characters are much worse than last time, in my opinion. Johnny meets Haley's parents as the day starts. Haley, Jenny, and Penny, excuse me, take over the baseball field, and the boys ask them to leave, and when they say girls can't play baseball, when they played back in the 1940s, if you ever seen A League of Their Own, you'll know what I mean, but that will come years later. As the girls play against the boys, as Mac blinks and misses the ball, as David tries to hit the ball and keeps going, it fouled again and again and again, as this is getting annoying, as this movie is absolutely annoying the daylights out of me. The boys and girls get called home by their parents while the next day comes, and David is afraid of dogs. For what reason? The filmmakers will explain it a little too late in the movie, which is unacceptable, and the boys come up to Johnny and they almost beat him up until he explains he doesn't know the people playing Little League Baseball, as he doesn't play, and Rockets are his life. And the boys tell them to leave, and they say no nonstop, and again goes back and forth all day long as Johnny faints and thinks about the boys sharing the Sandlot with the girls, as the others decide to play with the girls, while David reluctantly accepts, and they have their lemonade and love it, while David says stop complimenting them, while the Sandlot brings the girls to the Little League players led by Singleton, as he says the line he plays ball like a girl, and Haley challenges them to play at the Sandlot, and the next day, and why reverse the words and give it to the rival team as characters, as that doesn't work for me, as this movie doesn't work for me at all. They get to the carnival, and David gets his phobia rising as Johnny sees the dog bite on David while they go on rides, and Fingers gets the idea of going to the kissing booth as he kisses a woman on the lips, and the Sandlot ride their bicycles away, and we move on to their next day with the game of the Sandlot versus the Little League players, as the Sandlot kids wins the game, or games, thanks to Haley playing the game of baseball, and Singleton knocks Haley down on purpose, and David punches Singleton in the face and tells him he to never hit a girl, which is true in life, as Johnny brings up how the ball can't go over a big fence, and there's a reason it's there after the last movie, and they practice a game of with Mac hitting the ball over that large fence, and Johnny brings up the beast, which was brought up last time, as Johnny explains it and sees a giant dog attacking one of the Sandlot kids, as this feels like a pale imitation of the first movie, and the acting is much worse than the original. Johnny tells the story of how his brother Scott went through what happened 10 years ago when the dog ate a kid as it went chasing the kid, and I can't believe what the dialogue this got away with a PG rating, as this story is told much worse than last time, and Johnny brings up how they became dog chow and run away while the next day comes and gets a rocket as well as rocket riots For the 4th of July, while it's so hot outside, Haley invites the boys to go swimming in their backyard pool, as David at first doesn't come and eventually does come to the backyard party later with the other Sandlot kids, while Johnny sees a rocket inside the garage as Haley's father comes out and he asks Johnny to help him with the rocket before a business trip he has to make, and asks this movie, as this movie is poorly made in my opinion. The kids celebrate the 4th of July with fireworks, and David does show up as we get to the day to the business trip, where Haley's father had to leave for business trip, like I said, as he's a big shot at his work. Johnny going in the garage to test out the rocket outside, as he's being kind of stupid at this point. And this movie doesn't make sense, as this is poorly made as far as I'm concerned, and the humor doesn't land on me like the original. As Johnny sees the rocket takes off, while some people don't see it if they're blind and stupid, as this is a stupid movie that I would rather rewatch the original than see this ever again. As Haley tells the Sandlot to come over to their house to see her father on the TV, as I believe he's an astronaut. As Johnny says he tested the model rocket by accident, as it lands over the high fence, while the Sandlot has to get the rocket out of the other side of the fence, as I'm sort of checked out of this movie. They try to get the rocket out of the other side of the fence, the same exact way Scott hit the ball on the other side in the last movie of the fence, while Haley's cat goes on the other side against the dog. And despite I'm hating this movie, this poor cat better not die in this movie, but luckily it doesn't, as when it approaches the dog, the poor cat loses its fur, and I felt so bad for that poor cat. And there was absolutely no reason to go there whatsoever, while someone by the name of the Retriever tries to help to get the rocket back, as he explains his story of how he gets things from dogs believing that are chew toys, as he tries to get the rocket back, but he can't, as he officially retires from retrieving property from dogs, and that was an absolutely useless character, as I do not know why he was only in this scene in this movie, as this movie is absolutely pointless. Max passes by a poster of a movie called The Great Escape, and he gets an idea to get the rocket back from the dog, but while he can't see the rocket but feels the dog chain, while Fingers feels a vibration from the dog's feet, as the dog that sounds like a bull almost bites his hand, and gets back out of there, as he went good old number 2 in his pants, and eventually David comes at their lowest point, while Haley has a crush on David, while Johnny senses David also has a crush on Haley. And everybody, including David, comes in to the rescue, and he brings up how the dog bit him in the leg, as he says that the line a little too late, as he was the kid Johnny told the story about earlier in the film, and I wish it wasn't that obvious, but unfortunately it was. While David goes back to the other side of the fence and to get their rocket back, as the dog encounters David. And why in the world should I care about this? Because keep in mind, I don't really care for the characters. David plays the red coat on the dog like a bull would do, and gets the dog on the other side, and the dog goes after David, and as it's chained, and the Sandlot goes after them and mess up Singleton and the other Little League players, which is just very insulting, as I used to play Little League baseball when I was younger, and the chase sequence went on a little too long, for a video sequel, this feels a little bit too long, despite this is only 97 minutes of repeating the first movie all over again. And the third and final movie better work so hard at not repeating the original, which is what this movie failed to do, as David gets back to the Sandlot and does the dog and breaks down the long fence, and the kids try to save David's life until the dog does it for them and gets David out of the burial ground, and all of a sudden gives back the red blanket as well as licks him in the face, as we find out the dog's name is Goliath, and they meet Mr. Myrtle, returned by James Earl Jones. and asks, does anybody believe in the nonsense story, as Johnny tries to get the rocket back. And after Mr. Myrtle and asks and offer Mr. Myrtle to fix the fence that he put together for 3 years. And Mr. Myrtle says, walk Goliath twice a day, and the kids see Goliath is in love with a female doggy. While Haley says thanks to David, and they kiss. And I didn't buy that romance, as that it was never earned, but we learned what happened to the other kids after the summer of 1982. No, 1972. Excuse me, 72. And the climax was much worse than the first movie, as this is a very bad movie. But how worse is this? Let's talk about it in a rating. I'll give this movie a 1.9 out of 10. The characters are much worse than the last film, as this movie is annoying the daylights out of me, as the filmmakers explains David's fear a little too late, as this is an unacceptable film, as this movie doesn't work for me at all, as this feels like a pale imitation of the original movie, as the acting is worse than in the original, and I can't believe with this dialogue this movie getting away with a PG rating, as this story is told much worse than the last time, as this is a poorly made film as far as I'm concerned, and the humor doesn't land on me quite well, as this isn't as funny as nor good as unlike the original, as this movie doesn't make sense. This is a stupid movie that I would rather rewatch the original than ever see this again, as I was checked out by the movie by the hour mark, as we'll see how the next movie goes, but this could be so far kind of the worst of the series. But again, we'll see how the next movie goes, as this is a strong non-recommendation for this movie. While this movie is absolutely pointless, as a former Little League baseball player, I truly hate this movie, as this is not the worst movie I've seen in my life, but it's one of the worst movies I've seen of the year 2005. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time we'll be back with The Sandlot Heading Home, the final movie. And until then, you're killing me, Smalls.